Durag Diaries, yo, what's good, people? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another Europa League final preview. As you know, we've been milking it, running it up as much as we can as possible, getting as many people as possible on the channel to make sure, for more importantly, we're going to clip them. We're going to clip all of them once Spurs win the trophy. That's the most thing, but better yet, we have a debutant coming all the way from the States, making his way over to Durag Diaries. My like Staffy. How you doing, my bro?
What's good, bro? Thanks for having me. You know, I didn't think I was gonna get an invite here for quite a while now, so it's good to finally get that invite. I was like, where's my invite, bro? I've seen too many people here, and I didn't get my call up yet. So thanks for having me, man.
No, it's a pleasure to have you on finally. But people have seen it. We to be fair, we ain't done many shows together because the terrorists and stuff. Since I started my channel, the focus has been like laser. In over here, but it's good because I finally want to catch up. We can have a full season catch up.
Yeah, we haven't spoken in a while. Yeah,
it's been a proper while since we've had a proper breakdown of Man United, Spurs. Because Staffy was one of Ange Postecoglou's fans. He was one. He had a soft spot for Spurs a while ago, but I don't know if it's the same. Especially today, we might not be talking on any niceties. But before we get into any of that stuff, people, make sure you are showing some love, showing some support to Staffy on his channel. He's on the literally in the description, in the title of the video. You can't miss it. Make sure you're subscribing to Staffy at Staffy TV and subscribing to your boy, man. Road to 2K, as you can see above me. We're trying to get there before the end of the season. We got a week to go, but I need your support to get that done. So make sure you smash the like button. And also, big up to the new members, the people that have become members on the channel. Tony Rodriguez, Man Like H, Man Like Ilias, become members on the last show. Big up to them. But let's just get straight into it. Ruben Amorim. It's not been such a good time for him. It's been a terrible start to his life at Manchester United. But do you still have faith in the fact that he can get the job done, in not just this week, but he can get the job done as a United manager and actually improve you guys?
That's a good question. Listen, I don't know. I mean, the word faith is such a big word because you can have faith in a lot of things and it just ends up not happening. So, do I have faith in him turning it around or winning this week? Let's talk about this week first. Do I have faith that we can win this week? Of course I do. Do I think he can coach a good game where he can outcoach Ainge and win tomorrow? I still think it's a 50-50 game. I've been saying it for a while. So, of course, I'm going to say yes. In terms of how bad our season has been and going to next season, do I have faith that he can turn it around? You know what? I'm kind of an outlier. I've been called right now the new Manchester United Igao. That people are saying I'm doing whatever. No, I got called that. They said I'm the new Igao now. They said I'm doing what Igao's doing with Arteta, which I really don't think I am. I'd like to think I'm a lot more fair and I actually present decent arguments to what I believe in, rather than Igao. Just feel like Igao just likes to support the manager for the sake of just supporting the manager. I'm not. Here's the thing. I'm not married to the idea of Ruben Amorim. And by that, when I say that, it's just like, if you ask me, like, for real, do you think like Ruben Amorim is the guy that's going to take you back to winning Premier Leagues? I have no concrete evidence to tell you yes. You know, so like, I'm not a deluded fan where I tell you like, oh yeah, he is the guy. We need to stick with him no matter what. However, one of the reasons I don't pile up on him is because I just think there's so much more wrong with us this season that he wasn't really a part of, that I can't put it all on him. There's still this notion in this fan base that some of these players are way better than they are. And with another manager, we do like I've legit heard someone say we'd win the league if Fergie was coaching this team. And I'm like, you're just absolutely delusional because the team is just so bad. And I look at Ineos more than I look at anyone else because I feel like Ineos are the reason we are where we are, because they came in, they were undecided about Ten Hag. They wanted to sack him a couple of times, went back on their word a couple of times. Sir Jim came out and admitted that when he won the FA Cup, they decided to give him a chance, which they eventually regretted, sacked Ashworth for it, made 5 signings in the summer that you would argue wouldn't have done if they went for another manager, and if that manager was Ruben Amorim in the summer. You probably could argue we would have run in a different direction. Do I think Ruben Amorim is doing bad? Of course I do. The results don't lie, bro. Like, we're sitting 16th. Me and you were the 2 worst Premier League teams. And when I say that is because I look at the relegated teams. These guys are championship teams. We are the two worst teams in the league right now. So between the 17 teams, we are the worst. So the results don't lie. It's just like I look at how we got here, and people just look at the manager say like, if he's gone, we'll be better. I just don't subscribe to that. I feel I'd like to think there's a lot more wrong with this club right now rather than just one manager. So to answer your question, I don't know if I have faith. I'll be honest.
No, that's fair. I think you present some good points there. Because like you say, like with regards to his long-term success, it's hard to say anything because in the short term, what you've seen, there's nothing to say or nothing that you've seen to suggest it. I think also it's tough because the football's not been good, but also I think a lot, like when I spoke to Terry, one of the things that he's been key on, and to be fair, he's been very consistent with this even before Amorim come in. Like the next manager that came in was always going to have to deal with the fallout of the culture change that is currently ongoing at Manchester United. You know, everything that's going on above board, the Dan Ashworth leaving, the other guy going to Manchester City, like all these different things that were going on, it was always going to affect the manager. But more than anything, I feel like Amorim's been, for me, I don't even think he's been dealt a bad card. I think he just walked into the job knowing it was going to be a bad card, and he's just not really helped himself throughout that time, because at the point of when you would expect a manager to start adapt, to start going to plan B, plan C, to, you know, fit to what the players are, he's not done that. He's done, I'm doubling down on my principles.
That's the issue, Jords. And this is where I tend to lose a lot of people. And this is where we start arguing. I don't think he's been instructed to come in and just adapt. I don't think he's been instructed to come in and just, you know what, just shit house a few wins so we can try to salvage a season. I feel like Enio's fucked up so much with not appointing a manager in the summer. And when I say manager, because I don't care if it was Amorim or not. I thought the minute that Ten Hag won that cup, he should have got sacked right away. We should have gotten a manager since and went with a whole plan from the beginning. The issue for me was always to get a manager who, by the way, doesn't play the same system, plays a different system. You bring him in mid-season. You don't give him a squad that has enough specialists. And I'm not saying, by the way, you'll never catch me saying get his players. I always say get the right players, because you can get the right players for a system, not necessarily for the manager. I don't think we've done that. And I thought it was suicidal to try and go for a change of system mid-season with a lot of players that, let's just be honest, we know they're not even that good enough. Like Hoyland, bro, you know he's averaging the lowest XG in the league. Like I swear to God, I'm not even joking with you. I remember Don sent it to me and I was looking for Hoyland. I couldn't find Hoyland. You know why? You know when you look at a chart and you just see all the dots all over the place? I kept looking for him. He was dead as bottom, so he was where the zero
right
was.
In the corner, in the bottom corner.
He was the corner. He was quite literally the corner. I couldn't see him. And I was like, where is he? Did they miss him? He was the corner, bro. We have so many bad players that I look at and I'm like, who thought this was a good idea? If you wanted to go with that approach, I keep saying this, and I stand on this. I've said it all season. I've said it on Saeed's channel. I've said it on my channel. There's so many channels. If we wanted to go with the approach of just adapting with what we have and just see out the season and build in the summer, we should have just kept Ruud van Nistelrooy, because Ruud van Nistelrooy was ready to be there and just play what I like to call inferior football. Inferior football is when you know your team is not good enough to be on the front end and have some type of system where, like, you know what, if we can just pack up the midfield, just shut up shop and kind of hit teams on the counter, we'll tend to see ourselves win more games than not. That's why David Moyes, I don't think he struggled going to Everton, because no one went in there and they said, like, hey, start teaching these players how to play expansive football instead of just packing up the midfield and defending a little bit more compact. That was the whole issue. And this is why, as I said, I'm not married to the idea of Amorim, but how I can focus on Amorim like everyone does when criminals like Ineos and Omar Barada and them are walking free. I just can't do that, bro. Like, my integrity as a football fan can't allow me to see such a circus being ran and be like, you know what? We're just a manager away from being a good team. We're really not, bro. We're really not.
Do you know what? That it was a good point that you made there regarding, and that's the bit where I probably hold my hands up and I'm like, although I don't think he's done a great job, I generally don't think that it's like he had to do what he's done this year. He had to stick down on his principles. You have to double down, because if you give up early, like we saw with Ten Hag, like we saw with even Oli before, like when they started to play a system that they wanted to put together, didn't look good, they just start changing it and they're adapting it. And then you get into a process where every other game you're starting to adapt to different teams, and then you never really have an actual system and you don't have an identity. So
Exactly.
when you're actually trying to go in forward in pre-season, you're like, how do we prepare for it? There isn't much of a prepare because you need to know which game's coming up so you can prepare for each game. So he definitely, whether it's right or wrong, he's done the thing that ultimately in the long term will benefit him if he
Should be
gets the
beneficial,
time.
correct? Yeah.
It'll be beneficial. But what do you think? Because obviously you spoke about the players, and obviously Hoyland in particular has not been one that fits the system. But what do you think of the players that you have currently now? And I suppose the view for you guys to fit them in this squad system. Do you think that there needs to be a lot of changes, a big overhaul in the summer for Amorim to get them to ultimately play his way successfully? Because I know we've seen links. Cunha maybe signed. That one's like a few signatures away from being confirmed. But do you think you need a lot of players like Cunha who are specialized for a system like this, where he can play versatile few positions and he fits in for what Amorim's looking for?
So here's the thing. I think the floor of this team has never been lower. I genuinely believe this. I've
Yeah.
been watching this club for over 20 years. I think this is easily when I look at this team, this is the worst team I've ever seen. The technical ability, the athleticism, the football IQ, everything in this team just screams mediocrity, below average. I can't even call it an average team. This is a below average team in everything. And there's only a few players that I can single out as being decent. You mentioned Hoyland, and I don't think Hoyland has a system issue. I just think Hoyland has a development issue. Like I look back at this signing, 72 million for a striker who bagged like 11 goals in Atalanta, playing as a second striker, coming off the bench most games. He needed, these players that end up going to Brighton, and we're like, shit, we should have gotten them before you went to Brighton.
Maybe yeah, like
This is
that.
why we actually don't go for these players, because they actually go to these type of teams. They develop, they get ready for the big games and for the Prem, and they could play at the highest level. And that's why we spend the big bucks on them. It makes it a lot worse when you go for a striker. And I spent so much time looking at this. I can't remember any strikers that Sir Alex went for that were that young for that amount of money to come in and lead the line right away. The only person that you can compare him to that was Rooney, who, let's be honest, you could just already tell he was a generational talent when he was 16.
Yeah.
And to be fair, he didn't even lead the line right away. He came in and there was so many seniors ahead of him. Van Nistelrooy was leading the line. He eventually grew into that role, him and Ronaldo together, but they benefited from having a good team around him. But those are anomalies. You're talking about generational talents versus the everyday.
And even when you talk about signing those players, no one ever talks about the players that Brighton do sign and that aren't successful. Like they have a lot of players that aren't successful. Like so, it's very hardly that like you. A lot of the times big clubs have to do that, where you let the other club sign them and then we'll sign them for 60, 70 mil because you want a proven player. We all want to sign players that are proven with experience at this level. But sorry, continue.
No, you're absolutely right. And this is why you look at the City model as an example, because they have so many clubs. They have a club in America. They have a club in Australia. They have a club. The City group, they are able to get a lot of these players, send them on loan, have them develop a little bit. And if they're good enough, they end up getting them. If not, they just sell them to the league. It doesn't help United that they spent that much money on a player who came in and he needed like at least a few more years to learn his craft, to adapt to the Premier League, mature in his role. No one really wants, like, I can't remember a time where I've ever seen United being led by a young striker and be a successful team at the same time. The closest you can talk to about it is probably Martial. And Martial, as much as talented as he was, a lot of people didn't think he was good enough anyways. But look at what he did. Now you look back at Martial's time at United, he's miles ahead of Hoyland. Like if you thought Martial was a flop, now look at this guy. Not just him, by the way. I mean, we're kind of singling him out. The likes of Garnacho as an example. Like I've been against him since day one, and not against him in terms of like, oh, fuck this kid or whatever. A lot of people take like my criticism as like I'm a hater. I don't like these players. I'm really not. I just like I've watched. You can tell when someone's watched football enough and that can make a judgment outside of their emotional feelings about their club and just say if someone's good or not. And I just looked at him for a while. And I'm like, if we're really gonna build around this kid, like we're in trouble because like I just don't see enough for him. Where in a season or two, he's gonna be leading my line and he's gonna be the main goal scorer or main GNA contributor. He's right now. I mean, since I'm throwing stats here, I'm gonna give you two more stats. He has the worst dribble completion in the league for players that attempted over 60 take-ons or more. So that's enough a sample size where they can assess that. He's the lowest in the league. He's at 23%. And he has the worst conversion rate for anyone that had at least 10 big chances created for him in the league. So from all the players in the league that had at least 10 big chances created for them, he has the worst conversion rate. He's just not that good.
Yeah.
Those two alone, and then you add Onana to that, who there's no point of talking about it. If I say Onana, you already know what the issue is. You look at aging players like Christian Eriksen, who you saw him play in his peak for you guys, and then look at us all these years later. He's still in our team. So many players are just not good enough. And this is why I look at it like, to your question, you were asking, do we need specialists? Of course we need specialists. We actually need players that have their minimum floor, at least, is to be good enough to play in these type of teams. Because I might not win the league with you in 3-4 years, but if you can do a job for me for about 2-3 years, and then eventually when I'm a league contender, I can kind of improve on you, that's fine. But I feel like I don't even have that. I have way too many players that are inconsistent, incompetent, not athletic, not good enough on the ball. Bro, like I haven't had, I keep saying this to United fans, we haven't replaced Carrick yet. Carrick retired in 2017.
I was about to say, it's almost been 10 years since Carrick left.
And I haven't replaced him. Like, I haven't signed a DM that can progress the ball since. And this is why, by the way, this is how the whole Casemiro thing started.
But Schneiderlin was like the same time.
He wasn't even that. He was a flop too.
Yeah, he flopped.
But we haven't had a serious six since. Like, look at us. All these years later, I still don't have a six that can receive the ball off the back line, turn, and make a pass. And that's why when I didn't want Casemiro a couple years ago, and this is how the whole Casemiro thing started with me, and people thought I hit Casemiro, I was like, bro, I just need a DM that's not going to look at the ball and treat it like a grenade.
Yeah,
I want a DM that knows how to pass the ball, and we still don't have that. We have to play Bruno.
That you sign Ugarte, who's another one who does that. You know,
Ugarte, don't even get me started with Ugarte. You know what? That's a great thing. Put Saeed's comment on the screen. This Saeed brother, bro. When the news fell out that the transfer fell out with Ugarte, and we weren't gonna sign him in the summer, this guy, bro, went on his channel. He was like, "Oh, we're gonna miss out on a good player," and he was crashing out, doing emergency streams. Look at us now, bro. We have a DM that all he's good for is to run around and kick shins. People wonder why we're not a good team, bro. Your midfield, by the way, clears ours. I hope you know that. Like, I always say this. Every midfielder you have is better.
That's what I wanted to get massive Staffy hype.
Take off that sweater, bro. You're in Bilbao wearing a sweater, bro. Enjoy the sun. Enjoy the sun. Get some vitamin D, bro.
Enjoy the sun. But yes, Saeed, I know you're nervous. That's concentrate on your nerves, not mine. Yeah. But no, that's exactly what I wanted to get onto, is bringing it over to Spurs. Yeah, because obviously, look, I think when you look at the two squads, they're comparable, but I think it's fair to say Tottenham have a better squad. We're obviously underperforming massively, and we do have quite a lot of injuries going into this game. No Kulu, no Madders. Bergval's now been confirmed out, and obviously Dragusin and Werner aren't included at all. You guys have the return. Well, you have had the return of Diallo. You had the return of who else was missing before then? Yeah, the return. Now you've got Euro, you've got Xerxes, you've got Dallo. What do you think the return of these players will do for you? And I suppose having all these players back, do you think it gives you that boost over us in knowing that you've got the options off the bench to start looking at if there is a problem?
Euro is very important, because I'll be honest with you, I'm scared of Solanke. You know, you said that I like Ange. You'll also remember how I always talked very well about Solanke.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I've said it since that summer. When you guys actually signed him, I was one of the few people who came out and said this is a good signing. And to get someone who scored over 20 goals in the Premier League, 65 million, I thought it was justified. I think he scored big goals for you guys. That penalty against Frankfurt in the quarterfinals, and that goal, I think he scored the first one against Bodo Glimt for you guys. Yeah. In the second game. These are big goals, bro. And listen, I know when you look at it, the tally this season is not that great. I don't know how many goals he has for you guys, but I know it's not that much. It's not more than what he had last season for Bournemouth. However, I look at some of the big goals. He scored for you guys against us in the cup when you guys knocked us out. He, as I mentioned, he scored in those last two rounds in the Europa League. These big goals, bro, like, go a long way. Like, this is why I've always said, like, I thought he's better than Watkins as an example. Watkins went to the Champions League and left with 1 goal. Watkins was sitting on the bench when Aston Villa needed a goal against PSG. And guess who was leading the line? On loan, Rashford. These things, I look at these things, and I'm like, you know what, bro? This is signs of a small striker when you don't rise in these big moments. And for me, Solanke has done that. And I'm very worried about him in the final, because I think he can easily target Lindelof. And I think, as much as I like Maguire lately, I think he's easily targetable as well by Solanke. One of the few players that I trust, as much as he looks like I know you look at him and he looks like a scrawny little kid, but this guy's season has been so good. Like, I feel like because of how bad United have been, they just assume that he hasn't been good. I promise you, he's probably been one of our best players. Since that one game that he got cooked against Sulemana, this guy hasn't been dribbled past since. Like that is an actual stat. Like no one has
Oh,
dribbled him.
is it true? Is it
Yeah, no one has dribbled him
okay?
since. And I remember everyone cooked him for that. And I was like, you know what, bro? That was more like his welcome to the league moment. And he's been amazing for us. When you watch the game tomorrow, hopefully, I think he's going to start. But when you watch him, you're going to see how good he is for us on the ball. He's not shy to dribble the ball into your own half, and he comes up with big tackles when needed. So on both sides of the pitch, I think he's our best defender. Xerxes, as much as I'm happy he's back, I don't think he'll play a big part. You know, like hamstring issues. When you've been out for quite a while and you got a hamstring issue, you don't just come back and play a lot of minutes.
Yeah.
I think he might have a role when Højlund is done doing cardio for like 70 minutes and does nothing, probably averages 5 touches a game. Then maybe Xerxes can help me for like 10 minutes if I need a goal. But I don't think he'll play a big part. Dalot, I'd like to see Dalot play because I'll tell you this: if you see Mazraoui starting in right wing, you don't really have to worry about a lot. Because I love Mazraoui. I think he's very good. I think he's a complete liability when he's one-on-one with a defender. He's just like he's not his best attribute. I think he's better when we play him in one of the center back roles because his tackling is good, but on the ball, he kind of knows how to move the ball.
Yeah.
He has a good touch. He's one of those players that likes to pass and move, good on the build-up. But when he's just isolated on the wing, he just doesn't have that. He has no bag. You know what I'm saying? Like he's not gonna like if he goes one-on-one with Udogie, I don't think Udogie's gonna have any trouble with him at all. You know. So from those three those three returns, definitely Lenior is the biggest one because I don't want to go into that game playing Solanke with Lindelof or Luke Shaw. Nah, bro, I'm not trying to see that.
That's where I was looking to take advantage because, like you said, if you have some of these defenders in there that aren't so comfortable on the ball, we know for Manchester United, one of the biggest problems has been at the back, just giving it away, literally just flat out passing it into strikers, passing it into midfield, and there's no one there and gives it away. I know that the way that we're going to set up is likely going to be Richarlison and Solanke next to each other. And like they're pressing machines. Those two players are going to be players that are going to be running, pressing that back line, trying to get the ball from them at every instance. And a player like Yoro, who, although I think he's had an up and down year. I've obviously not watched him consistently all season, but from what I've seen, I think he's been up and down. I think he's one player who's definitely more comfortable on the ball than the likes of Lindelof and Co. So if you have a Lindelof playing, I'm like, hey, we're gonna be comfy.
Lindelof's so easy to bully, bro. He is so easy to bully, and I can't go. He was in that final where we lost a few years ago. I'm not trying to watch that again, bro.
The Europa League one against Villarreal, innit? He played that game.
Yeah, bro, and I'll never forget that game, bro. I don't want to watch this guy again. I don't want to watch him again. I can't go into 2 Europa League finals 6 years apart or 5 years apart, and Lindelof starting both of them. Nah, bro, it's unacceptable.
No, that's the thing. But yeah, the midfield. That's what I was gonna ask before. I just remembered. Well, first, forget Man United's midfield. How do you think Tottenham are gonna set up their midfield? And I suppose where do you see the weakness? Because we've obviously done a double pivot for the majority of the Europa League campaign the last couple of weeks. Bissouma, Bentancur, but with the tens, all of the tens that we have being out, we currently don't have a solution to that problem. We don't know who's going to play in that 10. Do you see that as a weakness for us? And do you think that double pivot can be exposed?
Your double pivot. I think your double pivot is better than ours. I know Bissouma has been rocky those last 2 seasons, but if he's on his day, he could do a job. I think Bentancur is obviously the best midfielder you have available right now. I think you missing Madison and Kulusevski. I'm not gonna lie, like I don't celebrate injuries, but low key put a smile on my face. Not because I want to see anyone injured.
I hear it. I don't blame you.
Because I know how good they are. Like Madison, he scored against us the last 2 games, I believe. And Kulusevski, is it safe to say he's been your best player this season?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so it's always good news when you know the team's best players are not available. You losing those 2 creative players in their own rights, it just makes the job a lot easier now. And I just look at it, I don't know, and that's what I was hoping you would give me today. What would the solution be? Because I've heard people say Bergvall might be back. He's probably not fit for 90 minutes.
Nah, he's been confirmed. Ange said today he's been confirmed. He's definitely not as a part of the team.
Okay, so there you go. So you lost that. I've seen Odebert suggestions. I don't know if he could. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if you want to put this kid in the final playing. I know he's a winger, so I don't know if you want to put him in the 10 in this game. I don't know how much he would offer. The only thing I thought of is probably playing a Richarlison and like somewhat playing a 4-4-2. But I don't know. I haven't been able to watch a lot of your games recently because our schedule has been identical over the last like month or so.
Yeah,
It
it
was
has.
Europa League, Premier League, Europa League. So I
Hmm.
haven't been able to watch you guys. But I've
Yeah,
seen a few times where Richarlison started, and I'm like, maybe you can kind of get a 4-4-2 out of it where you have Richarlison moving up as a second striker at times. And when you're off the ball, maybe he can drop and help the double pivot. Maybe Son can play a little bit more of a central role, Richarlison on the left. I don't know. I don't know. I just it's a problem that I'm happy that you guys have because I feel a lot more confident knowing that you don't have a main creator in that midfield to play those passes in the final third than obviously than what you have right now. So it's a headache that's unfortunate for you guys. I'll be honest.
yeah, it's a massive headache. And do you know what? When you say who do I think? I think, like I said, the 4-4-2 could be an option. Richarlison going up top, shifting another player out on the left, which is likely to be Son or Tel, and then just playing with the two midfielders. And because you guys are going to have two in the midfield as well, it's sort of man for man. They're going to be combating, and it's going to be a physical fight. Because I can imagine especially if you guys start with Ugarte and Casemiro, although they're not as good on the ball as Bissouma and Bentancur, they're not going to shy away from that physical battle because they're all very robust and all very, get stuck into the challenges. Very defensive midfielders. But when it comes to that attacking role, I don't really know who can play in the 10 because generally we don't have no one that else has played in the 10. I know Odobert has played in the 10 last season for Burnley. He made a few appearances in that position. But when I look at him, I don't look like he's a player who's going to get on the ball and make smart passes. I don't look at him breaking the lines. And I also don't think that he's going to be running through players in the middle of the pitch. You need to be a bit strong. You need to be able to shrug players off. We saw what Kulusevski done to you guys early in the season. So I don't think that's a possibility. I don't think trying Odobert in the 10 as well makes sense. Now, this is going to sound a bit crazy, but just walk with me for a moment, yeah? The one player who I think could potentially play there, and if we look at it, the way that we've been set up majority of the season, we know with the inverted fullbacks, you basically have 3 number 10s at times because those fullbacks are so high up, they join the 10 and they're pretty much part of the front line. I think Pedro Porro could be a solution to the problem. And
in the midfield.
In the midfield, like similar to what people have said about Trent, but the thing is, yeah, because when I look at it, is we can sacrifice Pedro Porro at the back because on the right back, Jed Spence will go there. He will cover him. When you talk about defensively, he's better than Spence defensively. And going forward, he still gives us a similar quantity. Maybe not as good on the cross and maybe not as clean technically, but definitely as good of a quality on the going forward and backside of the right back role. But in the 10, I need a player that has arrogance. You need a player that's like Bruno, who wants to play hero ball sometimes, gonna do the grenade launcher, gonna make it their story and start taking shots, start playing long passes. Pedro Porro is that guy. I think Pedro Porro, it could be something. I don't know if I'm just this brave though, but you throw Pedro Porro in the 10, you just say, look, whenever you're on the ball, create, because we know that's what he does. The goal that we scored, the goal that Madders scored in the last round came from Pedro Porro doing a long ball over the top, found itself into the box. So we know he's probably our best passer when we haven't got the likes of Maddison here. So why not? I don't know. What do you think about that?
So here's my suggestion. First of all, where's Papa Matasar?
He's available. I just don't want him to play in the 10. I don't think he's
okay, because I know he got subbed off versus Villa. I wasn't sure if he
was
injured.
Yeah, no, do you know what? I haven't heard that he's injured. That's the thing. I've not heard anything almost from that. So
here's what I would do. I mean, it's the only thing I can think of. I don't know Spurs as good as you do, but from the options that you have available, I wouldn't even play a 10. I play a flat 3. I'd have Bentancur, Bissouma, and Papa Matasar in the midfield. I'd probably have Bissouma, the sitting midfielder, and then play Bentancur and what's his name on each side, on Sarr on each side. And as you mentioned, your fullbacks invert anyways. There will be a lot of instances where your fullbacks can invert over the 8, or the 8s can progress when you have the ball. They can go advance, and then you have Pedro Porro kind of sliding in. Let's say so Bentancur is on the right. You'll have Pedro Porro step into the midfield, and then Bentancur moves up with the ball. Now he's playing behind the front line. Same thing from the other side. You have Udogie. Either he overlaps Papamatasar or Papatasar, he goes up, and then you have Udogie is a little bit behind him. That is the only solution I can think of from the options that you have. Because like I wouldn't try to shoehorn a 10 just for the sake of playing a 10. Because when you said Pedro Porro, you reminded me of Ten Hag when we played Mazraoui in the 10 in the Europa League. You remember that game? And that's basically when he lost his job because this motherfucker had Ahmad sitting on the bench, and he was like, you know what, I'm gonna put a right back in 10. I wouldn't force it to that point, especially if you haven't seen it before. To experiment something like that, I'm not gonna lie, it's a little bit crazy. Like, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of times where you guys didn't play with a 10 and you played just a regular midfield 3, which is 2 8s and a DM. That is something probably the players are used to. You know what I'm saying? Because there was times I remember you used to play Kulusevski in the right side of the midfield. It wasn't even a right wing. So I'm thinking of that system that you guys done before. And as I said, when your fullbacks move forward, sometimes you have a shape of a back 3 or just 2 sitting, and obviously your fullbacks are a little bit too more advanced. That's the only way I can think of it. But yet again, I don't even know, honestly, if Ainge wants to control the ball or if he wants to be a little bit more cautious and play a little bit more in transition.
That's what I've been thinking.
4-4-2 works in a transition, and you do have the personnel for it, which is why I'm kind of intrigued to see what's going to happen tomorrow. Because if you do play 4-4-2, you will sacrifice the ball. But to be fair, it's a final. It's a one-off. You don't care if you possess the ball or not in the final. You can win the final in transition. Like, it doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I don't know. But those are my two solutions. Obviously,
that's a proper good point that you just said there. Is I don't know whether Spurs are going to look up to get, because in our last couple games in Europa League, obviously there've been away ties. There've been games where we're going into it either with a 1-1 or we've had a lead into the game. So we've been able to go defensive, but that is it. We've played in the transition more. And that's the problem. Is when you said play with the 2 8s, we've been playing with 2 6s now. And I think playing with the 2 6s adds that defensive stability as to why we've not conceded, as to why our structures look better. And also, Bentancur and Basuma, both of them have this lack of positional discipline. So they tend to just sort of float off into the wider areas that leaves those gaps and spaces in the middle. So I feel like we have to play with the double 6, but also, like you said there, we don't necessarily have to play with a 10. There's other solutions where you could just use the same players that have been playing and not go with something mad like a Pedro Porro in the 10. But that's just me trying to think of a solution that's very out there. I think it would be wild to go with that in the final, because if it does go wrong, Ange will be... He'll be
he's already like he's on a knife's edge. So
I don't know. I
don't think he can do anything risky.
It would either go really well, as in Porro bangs a goal, he's like a maestro, and it's like, yo, maybe we've got something here, or it's gonna go extremely badly where Porro has a bad game because he likes to get on the ball a lot. So regardless, he's gonna be on the ball. It's whether he has a bad game and he ends up showing up Ange and the rest of the team. But we'll see how that one plays out. It's going to be interesting, isn't it? It's definitely going to be interesting to see how either of our teams set up, because ultimately, neither of us have been great on the ball. Neither of us are good or bad. Well, neither of us are good attacking. Neither of us are good defensively. We've just sort of been getting through games. But the funny thing about you guys is you've actually picked up big form, like going into this one with goal-wise. Was it 17 goals in your last 3 European ties?
We scored so many goals in the Europa League.
Yeah,
when we beat Bilbao, and I can't remember how many Premier League games we played since. At that time, there was a crazy stat. We had the amount of goals that we scored in the knockout rounds of the Europa League, which is basically Lyon, Sociedad, and Bilbao, was more than what we scored in like more games in the Premier League. I forgot what it was, and it was an insane stat. So basically, in 6 games, we scored more than what we scored in double-digit games in the Premier League, which is it's nuts to think of. But we scored 7 against Lyon, 7 against Bilbao, and I believe 5 against Sociedad. So we score a lot of goals in the Europa League. But you guys are not. You guys are an English team, so I don't expect to score that many goals. Like, that is the one thing that pisses me off about this final. I wish I played a La Liga team because I could trust that we will beat them again. You guys, you bring me the same issue that I have in the Premier League, which is physicality. You have a physical team. Now I have to rely again on not being able to kind of dominate teams physically, at least on the pitch, because now I lose that. So that's the one thing I didn't want to see. This is why I didn't want to see Spurs in the final. I was so desperate for Bodo Glimt to win.
No, it'd have been a lot to have Bodo Glimt. Imagine having Bodo Glimt to the final. That would have been
the most boring final ever, and I don't care. because I knew I was going to leave with a trophy.
That's it. You're going to leave with a trophy. But then, yeah, people. The funny thing is, yeah, what do you think about everyone that's trying to play down the Europa League at this point? Because I've never seen it before. Like, it's only now that you got Tottenham and Man United in the final. Because I remember 5-6 years ago when it was Chelsea-Arsenal final, no one downplayed the Europa League to be like a small trophy and all this. Now, all I've getting from every side, everyone is, the Europa League's not that big of a trophy. Whoever wins Europa League's not really had that good of a season. You shouldn't be in the Champions League and all of this stuff. What do you think of that talk that's been coming? Because obviously you've been in Europa League, you won it when it was the old format, and now it's the new format. Do you think there's much difference? And I suppose does the level of the competition now drop? As in,
it's one of the weakest Europa Leagues I've ever seen. And to be fair, I've been saying it since like we made the Sociedad game. So at least I've been consistent with that. And yeah. I said I'll gladly say, even if United win it, I'll gladly say that this is one of the weakest I've ever seen. So I've been consistent with this narrative for about 2 months now, and there you go. We're in the final. I never thought we'd be in the final, anyways, but we're in the final here. I'm still gonna say that.
You didn't think you'd be in the final?
Nah, I didn't think so. Do you not see me in the league, bro?
No, I know, but like let's say the start of the season, you must have thought you're making the final, though. At least, like
no. So in the beginning, before I saw any football being played, sure, but let's say December. I was like, bro, this stuff. Every United fan that said we must win the Europa League or sack Amorim, I was like, stop with this narrative. We're not gonna win the Europa League. We're so bad in the league. We can't put 2 wins together. It's not gonna happen. And when you really look at our run is just we have one of the weirdest runs I've ever seen in the Europa League. We absolutely dominated Sociedad, they had so much more of the ball than us, yet we put 4 past them when they came to Old Trafford. And then we played Lyon, where everyone thought we're finished. We were on the verge of getting knocked out after being up 2-0 on our own ground. So all of a sudden, it's extra time and we're down 4-2, and I'm thinking it's over. We just come up with 3 goals like it was some FIFA shit where you just go all-out attack and you score. And then we play Bilbao, who are the hosting team for the final, and they have the final in their own stadium. Everyone thought they're going to dog walk us. Yeah. I had Lee sending me voice notes saying they're going to cook you, they're going to chef you guys. You'd be lucky to score 1 on them. And then we scored 3 in their stadium. To be fair, obviously the red card helped. And then we cooked them back in Old Trafford again. We just made an absolute mockery out of them. And you'd watch those games, and I swear, you wouldn't assume that United are sitting 16th in the league. If you go to a neutral that doesn't watch United, has no idea where United are, and you just show them our Europa League games, they'll probably think we're sitting top 4 at least. So the team that we had in the Europa League and the team that we had in the league, they're the same team, but they don't look like the same team. But it is, I'll be honest, it is one of the weakest. However, I'm never going to celebrate it any less. I know people like to say this whole standard thing, and they're like, oh, look how the mighty have fallen. Well, guess what? I'd rather win the Europa League than lose the Europa League. So I feel like I face this every year. Just because my name is Manchester United, I'm not allowed to celebrate any trophy that's not the league or the Champions League. And I hear it because people grew up on United winning the major honors. So yes, I do get that. But I'm not treating the Europa League any different. For me, at least, I look at it as a European Cup. It's one European club, one European Cup closer to Liverpool if I win it. It's one European Cup more than everyone behind me if I win it. And I'm not going to treat it any different. Is it, let's be honest, is it the ultimate goal? Do we go into next year, me and you, wanting to be in the Europa League and winning it? No. Probably not. We want to be in Champions League, and we want the Champions League. Of course, everyone wants to win it, especially for a club like Manchester United, because we used to win it. We aspire to go back there, and we're far away from that. It doesn't mean that I'm going to look at it any different. The one fan base, though, and this is when I start, there's professional side of me, and there's Jersey side of me. Jersey side of me is when I start getting pissed. Jersey side of me is when I start calling out people and cussing out people. There's a certain fan base that sits there, talks about being too good to be in the Europa League, want to shit on the Europa League 24/7, yet they were on their knees 3 years in a row trying to win that cup, lost to Chelsea in the final, lost to our own ex-manager, Unai Emery in one of them, and then lost, funny enough, the last time they were in this competition, they lost to a 10-man Sporting being led by Ruben Amorim.
Yep.
I just look at this fan base, and I don't know if you saw my tweet yesterday. They put the Europa League on Twitter. They shared all the previous winners, and I think it goes all the way to the 70s or maybe 60s. I don't remember.
I think it's
and funny enough, I think the first team to ever win it.
Yeah. 71.
Yeah, the first team. I looked at it, and I was like, hold on a minute. I see Real Madrid on this list. I see Bayern Munich on this list. I see Liverpool on this list. I see Juventus on this list. Obviously, Manchester United were on that list. I saw Chelsea on that list. I saw Ajax on that list. I saw European heritage clubs that we didn't think have ever won the Europa League or even competed in it. They won it, but we didn't think of it because of how many Champions Leagues we win. We don't think of Europa League when you think of Madrid. Yeah, Madrid have 2 of them. They have all these Champions Leagues, but they have 2 Europa Leagues. Same for Juventus. Same for Bayern. And I'm looking and I'm like, hold on, where's Arsenal? Arsenal is not there. How could you be a team that never won the Champions League, never won the Europa League, yet you get to tell us how we feel? At least for me, I've won both. I could tell you, you know what, a trophy that I've won, the bigger one and the smaller one, guess what? I have a say on which one matters more. And obviously it's the Champions League. But for a certain fan base to downplay it and say, I'm too good to be in it, I don't know. I'm throwing too many stats at you today. I'm going to give you one more. They've been in this competition 11 times in their career. In their club history, sorry.
Yeah,
11 times in their club history. And they never win it. So don't tell me I'm too good to be in it. You were clearly, you were in it 11 times. So when 11 times when you weren't good enough for the Champions League and you were in it, you've never won it. Please explain to me how Ipswich is on this list and you're not. Now, I'm not dealing with that, bro. I'm not dealing with that.
I'm not either, because what do you know what it is? Yeah, it's like that. I've been saying, I was just on a show with Ashraf and so on, and they're sitting there trying to play it down and go, well, if you guys win it, you've not had a better season than us. And I said, what? Wait. I'm not having no Arsenal fans trying to downplay a trophy you've never won. Not having these guys trying to tell me I've not had a better season or I've not done this and I've not done that. When you've, at the end of the day, there's one currency of football. It's trophies. The teams that win trophies are successful. Every other team about that, outside of that, is not success. So when you have a season like I have had for 17 years straight, I'll tell you for free, I've not had a successful season in between that time. I've had decent years. I've had years that I've enjoyed because of the moments, but none of them have been successful. And that's the thing that people need to remember. And I didn't even know that stat about they've been in 11 times. I thought it was like, I know they've been in it. They were like 5-6 years in a row.
11 times Europa League and UEFA Cup. So both versions of the cup, they've been in it 11 times.
11 times and no win.
They lost to the final against Galatasaray with Thierry Henry, bro.
Yeah, I remember that one. I remember that's the one thing I do remember. And that's the funny thing is I'll sit there and you just have to look back. You'll be like, they've not actually won it. This is why they're playing it down. You went in it 11 times, never won it. You've been in a Champions League about 24 times, never won it. But you guys just want a participation trophy every year and talk about, oh, but we're just in and amongst. And I was just on a show with some guy called Souls. Not Guna Souls, some other Souls guy. Don't really know him. But I remember he literally said, oh, that game against Real Madrid, we were going to remember that for years. And I was like, yeah, this is the level.
You know, that's their biggest European moment, right? Like that is
ever. That's the.
And you know what's funny? You beat Real Madrid about.
We beat them. That's what I said. We smashed up Real Madrid. The team, the best Real Madrid side that was doing the 4 in a row. We beat that team. But Arsenal fans, again, I won't.
And it never gets spoken about. Like people never talk about when Spurs put 3 past them. Yeah, and I remember that game still.
Yeah, I remember it. It was in Wembley. I remember that was a proper night. Like, bro. But again. Arsenal fans, we already know that they are not on the same.
Who was that one midfielder that scored against him that day? Was it who was it? Harry Winks?
Harry Winks or someone like that. I think someone. Yeah, I think Winks got a goal. I'm pretty sure Winks. That's the thing. We played them with like a team that wasn't even. Harry Winks was starting. Musa Sissoko and these man were playing. But hey, look. I digress. We don't even need to talk about them because they're not in the final. Their season's over whilst ours is still got another day to it. We've got one more day at least. And one of us is going to be
miserable tomorrow, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's going to be more than miserable. And Staffy said, look, you see that hat that he's wearing? It might get even more miserable because the Knicks, they're playing too, right? We
play at 8 o'clock, bro. Listen, bro, the Knicks... You know what, bro? My season is riding so high on tomorrow. If the Knicks and United lose, you might have to do a welfare check on me. I don't think I'll be okay. Like you deadass might have to, you guys might have to ring me up.
It's only game 1, innit, of the Knicks anyway. It's only game 1.
It's game 1, but bro, the pace is so much. We have so much beef with the Pacers, man. We have so much beef with them. So we can't. They knocked us out last season as well. So we can't have them. Last season we were playing them, and we were beating them. We were up 2 on them, and then everyone got injured. We lost basically like 6 players. And then they came back and cooked us and they talked hella shit. So like if we lose to them again, like I know it's just gonna be miserable, bro.
Yeah.
You know, and this is the first time I've seen the Knicks in an Eastern Conference final. Like the last time they were in it, it was 20 years ago.
Yeah, I remember. It was been years, man. I saw like
it was 20 years ago, and I wasn't even a Knicks fan. I was a child, obviously. So I've never gotten to see this. So if United lose and the Knicks lose, it's finito out here.
Double jeopardy, man. It's gonna be a tough time. Tough time. But anyway, just quickly before we head out, final predictions. What's your score line? What do you think is gonna happen in the game? And what do you need to see from United to get the job done?
You want my predicted lineup as well, or no? Or just the
prediction? Yeah. Go for the predicted lineup as well. Yeah.
All right. So with the returns today, which is probably something I'm gonna stream later, to my own channel. Onana's gonna be in goal. I think the back three is going to be Maguire, Lenny Yoro, and has to be one of Luke Shaw or Lindelof. You actually might still get to see Lindelof tomorrow because De Ligt is not available. So we'll see if Dalot starts. Maybe Mazraoui is there, but I'm gonna go for Lindelof for now. I just have a hunch that he wants to play Lindelof. I think he's not gonna start Dalot right away because he's been out for like a month. So I think he's gonna have what's his name, Mazraoui on the right. He's gonna have Dorgo on the left. He's gonna play. I think he's gonna play Bruno and Casemiro in the pivot. So I don't think he's gonna start with Ugarte. And I think he's gonna play a front three of Ahmad. I think he's gonna actually start with Mason Mount. I don't think he's gonna start with Garnacho, and it's gonna be Højlund. And I think it's gonna be key for us to have maybe Xerxes and Garnacho in the second half come off the bench. We still have Meno, who's not gonna start. He's gonna come off the bench. Yeah. I will give you this warning though. We do start games a little bit slow, but we always tend to, at least in the Europa League, in the last 20 to 30 minutes of the game, when we make subs, we usually finish the game with our best team rather than start with it. So you tend to see our better players on the pitch at the same time closing out the game. So you'll see Casemiro, you'll see Menu, so you'll see Bruno, you'll see Ahmad. As I said, I think you might see like 20 minutes of Xerxes. You'll see our better players finishing in the game because I think he trusts them in the second half, just come on and score like we did against Lyon as example, where he just threw everyone on and we ended up scoring 3 goals. That is when we kind of become dangerous. So, which brings me to how I predict the game to go. I think you guys are going to be better in the first half. I do think Ainge is going to try to control the game a little bit. I don't know if he'll be successful or not, but he's going to try to. I know he at least has that mentality. I kind of see you guys having a better first half than us. We're probably going to rely on hitting you guys on the transition a little bit more. And my goal for this team is just don't concede early. If we don't concede in the first half, I generally believe if we're going to halftime without conceding or it's 0-0, I think we win the game from there because we score a lot of late goals. And I do trust that in the second half, when we bring on some better players, we'll probably have enough to score against you guys. We've been in the final before. It's not new to a lot of these players. I think experience at least is on our side. I think nerves and a lack of experience might affect you guys. You know, other than Romero, I can't really think of a lot of players that been there and done that. Even Son, he's been on the wrong side of multiple finals. Yeah. So I look at that and I'm like, you know what? I probably fancy our chances. And I'm actually going to go with a 2-1. I think you guys might score early in the second half. Someone is going to score early and then someone's going to tie it right away. Like, I think there's going to be like a 5-minute gap between two goals.
That's exactly what I've said. I've said the other way around, but someone's going to, like, I've said Tottenham are going to score early, but I've always said Man United are going to tie it. I think it's going to go 1-1.
And then it's going to be right away. Someone's going to tie it. And then late in the game, I think United get a winner.
Yeah. Do you know what?
The scenario I'm predicting.
I think that, but for Tottenham, literally that how you play that. I think it's going to be an early goal. I think it'll be an early goal in the game, maybe 20 minutes in, 25 minutes in. And then Man United equalize, and then the game's going to play out. It's going to be one of those really cagey games, bit back and forth. But in the last 15 minutes, I just think Tottenham.
I think you need to win the game early because I look at the players you can bring off the bench. You don't have a lot of players you can bring off the bench. I think you have better players starting, but I think we can close out the game with better players.
Yeah.
The longer the game goes, 0-0 or just draw, even if it's 1-1, I think the longer the game goes, I think the longer it favors United. So if you guys don't win it early, I think you'll struggle to win it late. I think if we don't lose it early, then we'll find a way to win it late. That's the only way I can look at it. Like, I don't know.
It's a good way of looking at it. And to be fair, logic would tell you the same thing. As Spurs don't tend to get a lot of late winners, where Man United do. You win a lot of your games late. We don't.
When you don't start well, you end up not winning the game. Whereas United, there's so many times where we don't start well, but we manage to win the game. You get what I'm saying? And as I said, you don't really have that. You don't have so much coming off the bench. Like, who's your attacking options coming off the bench? Odobert, Tell.
To be fair, it could be Son, Tell, Odobert. I suppose more, but
No,
then
but Son is starting.
Yeah, if Son starts, it's going to be Tell, Odobert, and then yeah, man, like that's about it. It'll be Tell, Odobert.
These are not great options to rely on. You get what I'm saying? So you need to win it early. That's why I think you guys need to start strong, and you guys need to at least go into halftime 1-0. I think if you go into halftime 1-0, you have a good case to win the game. But as I said, the longer the game drags out, I think it favors us.
Yeah. No, I think that's a fair point. That is a fair point. I think I am getting even more nervous because Staffy was talking some sense. I can't even lie. Staffy was talking some sense. I'm like, shit. He might.
Hey, bro, you probably thought, like, I can't do what all these other people do. You know that amount of people that said, "Yeah, we're gonna win the game," and I'm like, "Why?" Well, it's Spurs, and I'm like, "Well, that's why we're gonna lose." Because if you keep telling me the only reason we're gonna win is because it's just Spurs. Fergie, when he said that, he had Ronaldo on the pitch, he had Rooney on the pitch, he had Giggs on the pitch, he had Scholes on the pitch, he had Van der Sar on the pitch, he had Vidic on the pitch,
at that point,
Rio on the pitch. He didn't have Højlund when he said, "Oh, lads, it's just Spurs." He would have never said that. So please don't apply that logic from 20 years ago to this shit team. No. You know what I said, bro? I was like, Andrew's probably saying the same thing. Andrew said, "It was like, lads, it's just no." He wouldn't say lads. He was saying mates. Mates, it's just United. That's what he's saying.
Just United,
he's
Mike.
looking at us. He's like, it's just United.
and you know what? That's the thing. There is. I've said it, but in the arrogance of me is go in the team talk, say we beat them 3 times, lads. Go do the same thing again.
Yeah. I forgot to mention that you have that mental part on your side.
Yeah.
Players are going in, although finals, I know it's a different game for people. Yeah. I know Spurs, and I'm not even trying to diss. You haven't seen your teams in a lot of finals, so you really don't experience that. We went last season against City, a team that spanked us twice, and we still beat them. Like, it's just a completely different ball game when you go into
it's just a team that wants it more on the day, Omali. Like, exactly. That's what I said, like, although we've done the tactic talks and that, no matter of tactics is going to get any team through this game. It's whoever wants it more, whoever shows up on the day, and you'll know real early in the game. Like,
has a better chance. That's all I'm saying.
First 10-15 minutes, I think you'll know which team is up for it more, and that's probably going to be the team that the win goes.
This is why there's so many historic players that were so good, but they were known to be bottlers in finals. They always choke in finals. It's always been a thing in football.
Haaland still hasn't scored in a final, by the way. I saw that stat the other day. Haaland still hasn't scored in a final.
Yeah, that's crazy. He hasn't scored in a final. Since we're talking about final stats, Casemiro's never lost a final, and Onana's never won a European final. And obviously, we got Ainge. I always win shit in my second season. So someone's curse or someone's streak is going to be broken.
And Romero's never lost a final as well. I saw a stat saying Ange hasn't lost a final, but I don't know if that's true as well. I ain't really looked into all his J League and Asia Cup stuff. It wasn't really.
I'm not happy to have Onana stat on my side. That's all I'm saying.
Hey, man, like you, Jacob, coming in here with and Europa Koglu. Big up to Jacob, man. We need to see some more content back because I know he dialed it down a bit for the last month or so. But Mr. Ange in himself, I know he's going to be in full effect if we lift that trophy tomorrow. And we'll definitely have him on the channel, people. We'll definitely have Jacob back. So look out for that one.
Spurs win, I better see like a 10-hour stream from Jacob tomorrow.
Like just emergency stream during the league gunner settings. We're going to be live all night, people. It's going to be one of them ones. But
what's your prediction, by the way?
Oh, prediction 2-1. I'm gonna go Spurs 2-1 win, man. I think it's gonna be a close game, but I think we get the job done. I hope it's a boring one. That's it. I generally hope it's a boring one. With regards to lineup, I think our back five is gonna be the same one that we've set up with most of it is our best back five: Udogie, Porro, Van der Ven, Romero, and then obviously Vicario. Double pivot of Benton, Basuma, and then like you said, it could be a 4-2-2-2-2. So I'd go with the two out wide. I'd prefer to go with Tell and Johnson because I don't think Son should be saved. I think he should come on the last 40 minutes. Bring him on at the 60th minute or something when we're chasing the game or we need a goal. And he's coming on against tired legs. Probably see a better side of him than Richarlison.
Your captain, you wouldn't start your captain in a final? That's crazy.
I don't want to make the same mistake we made with Kane. You know, coming back from injury, trying to shoehorn him back into the team. He's fit, but he's only played about he played in the last game against not West Ham. He played against Villa and he played in the Palace game, but the Palace game was like 30 minutes, and then Villa he started, but again, it wasn't what he didn't have a full game, so I don't know if he's fully fit. He'd have to come off if he starts. I don't see him if he plays 90 minutes after coming back from injury a week ago. I'd be lost. I don't know what I'd do. So, yeah, man. United. What's he say here? Jacob, tomorrow it's not about Ange in out. It's about glory, glory, Tottenham Hotspur. End of. But I will be sipping with my Ange pinky out. You see me? You know, one of them ones. He's gonna be doing one of them ones. But hey, people. Big up to Staffy for coming on for this preview. This has been a great preview, proper ball talk. As we're seeing today, we had Ty earlier, we got Staffy to now. We had proper ball talk in these previews. So I know people saying, Jords, been in loads of previews. Every preview has been different. Depends who you get on. You get a different show. You get a different Jords. So make sure you guys are showing some love to Staffy on his channel. The link is in the name of the video, but also the description of this video. So go and sub up to Staffy. Smash a like on what he's. Have you got anything coming up, Staffy? You said going live later?
Yeah, I haven't set up the stream yet, but I'm probably gonna go live like later. I usually finish work in 3 hours. That's why I stream late. But I'm probably gonna go live after, talk a little bit about the game tomorrow, talk about the news today of the players returning, what players were in training and stuff like that. And I might do a watch along for the NBA finals today. Well, the Western Conference finals today. Minnesota versus Oklahoma.
Yes,
I'm keeping for the first time. I can actually keep an eye on the West to see who I could potentially face in the final, which is something I've never experienced as a basketball fan. You know what? I actually I enjoy now being a fan of the Knicks more than being a United, and I'll tell you why. When I used to win so much with United, it was a little bit guaranteed. It felt like I was privileged. It didn't feel like I worked hard for it.
Yeah.
Seeing the Knicks, I understand how it is to be like
how hard it is to be like United is in my eyes.
Exactly. Like I'm now, I feel like I'm a West Ham fan, or like I'm a Villa fan, or like I'm just a fan of someone who's outside the top 6. And I'm not gonna lie, the journey is a lot more enjoyable than that. You know, so I'm like, you know what? I got that feeling. It's in a different
you know what it's like to be at the damn bottom. Because I remember like 6-7 years ago, and the Knicks was just terrible, bro.
Exactly.
Terrible, so, but just on that quickly, NBA, because I know many people ain't interested, but I just want to know who do you want to face in the final if you do get to the SGA or
Minnesota.
Anthony Edwards? Who are you most scared of?
Minnesota. Yeah, Minnesota. Because I think Oklahoma is the best team that's still left in it. I was desperate for the Nuggets to beat them, but they didn't. They obviously took them to Game 7. When I look at matchups, their matchups is pretty difficult because they just have one of the best defenses in NBA history, let alone this season. So the way we match up against them, we would struggle. Like we're a different animal in the playoffs, and we've showed it, especially with the way we play against the Celtics. But Oklahoma might be a little bit too much for us. And if we do end up playing Oklahoma and winning, then I even told Jacob that I'll be like, it's going to be one of the most respectable rings in NBA history, because it means I had to take down the best team in the East and the best team in the West. And you don't get to see that a lot. I'd rather Minnesota for the rivalry as well, because you know the whole trade with Randall and Karl Anthony Towns in the summer. So it would be 2 former players on Minnesota facing the Knicks, in the final. And obviously Cat facing Minnesota, who he spent 10 years playing for. It would be, I think it would be a great NBA finals for the rivalry and just for everything. It's just like a whole promo, honestly.
No, well, we'll see about that. Keep a lookout for that if you are interested in basketball. Make sure you go over to Staffy's channel. We'll be doing a video later on today. But what I am going to do, people, is I'm going to send you guys over to Hooks, who's going to be doing watch along for the Manchester City and Bournemouth game. So make sure you guys hit a DRD raid in the chat. Let him know you guys have come over from my channel. And make sure you show some love to Hooks. Smash a like on the video on your way in. But until next time, tomorrow, Europa League final watch along. We will be there. Peace.
Peace.